Folks, it is colder than a well digger's booty outside right now. Good evening, East Alabama and West Georgia. Dr. Don with you on a very frigid Monday night across East Alabama and West Georgia. If you've been waiting on winter, well, it is here. We have a extremely brisk northwest wind this evening, gusting anywhere from 15 to 25, occasionally gusting over 30 miles per hour. Temperature has been on the nosedive all afternoon. We're below freezing in all locations now. We're headed for the low 20s for your overnight low. That's the actual air temperature. Most likely, we are looking at wind chill factors certainly in the low teens at times tonight, if not the upper single digits. That's what it feels like outside, and that's the number you need to be concerned about because that's where frostbite takes place. It doesn't have anything to do with the actual air temperature. It is the wind chill. So if you've got to be outside for more than just a minute or two, you got to make sure that you dress accordingly. You want to layer. You want to have multiple layers of T-shirts and shirts and then coats and jackets on top of that. You got to have those gloves. You want head covering. Make sure you got on layered thermal underwear if you got that. I mean, if you're going to be outside, maybe even a couple of pair of socks. You got to dress accordingly tonight. This is just simply not what we're used to here in the Southeast, and we don't see cold like this very often, so you got to bundle up. But, you know, everybody knows it's cold outside tonight, and that's not really why you're here. You're here because you want to talk about what may happen as we head toward the end of the week. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do Weather Talk Live each night this week, and I'll update you as we go along, as we get closer to what may or may not end up being a meaningful winter weather event across Alabama and Georgia. I think confidence is pretty high there will be an event. Confidence still pretty low on exactly where and what types of winter weather we're talking about. And I'm not really sure we get there until we actually have the low pressure system form in the Gulf of Mexico. So that kind of brings me to my first topic here tonight. And you see the graphic there on the screen. This is the latest from the National Weather Service office in Birmingham. So what's causing all of this? Well, we already have cold air in place. We're going to have more cold air filter in on Thursday with pretty much a dry front that's going to reinforce the cold air that's in place now. And then on the tail end of that dry front, as it moves through the southeastern United States, we're going to see a low-pressure system spin up in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, that, we believe, will form somewhere just offshore, just off of the Louisiana coast. Exact location where that low-pressure system forms is going to be key. And then the forward motion of that low-pressure system is going to determine everything. Cold air is going to be here. There's no question about that. But where does that low-pressure system track? There's really three different possibilities on the table right now. We have a northern track, we have a middle track, and then we have a southern track. In just a few moments, I'll draw this for you on the screen. But just basically, if the low pressure takes the northern track and comes up through South Alabama and then across middle Georgia and into central South Carolina, you're probably not looking at much of anything across East Alabama and West Georgia other than maybe it starts out as sleet and a little snowflake mixed in with rain early Friday morning. But then as the sun comes up, you quickly change over to a cold rain, and that would continue throughout a good portion of the day on Friday. North Georgia, and I know we got a lot of North Georgia folks in here watching this evening. If the low pressure takes that northern track and comes up into middle Georgia, it's going to be a very, very close call for extreme north and northeast Georgia. The current models still have us on the edge of freezing rain, sleet, snow, and rain. I think maybe for those of you in White County, the southern part of the county would probably see a freezing rain set up. The northern part of the county, up north of Helen, up in the ridges, would probably see a snow sleet set up if the low pressure takes that northern track. Now, if the low pressure comes out and runs right across the northern Gulf of Mexico, maybe stays offshore 50 to 100 miles, and then comes in over around maybe the Big Bend area of Florida, and then works over or just south of Jacksonville, now that snow line is going to be pulled much further to the south and probably down into East Alabama and West Georgia. And that would certainly give us probably all snow up here in northeast Georgia for the duration of the event, maybe with the exception of a couple of hours around noon or 1 o'clock on Friday where we could change over to rain for a couple of hours. Then as the temperature starts to drop, we would go back to all snow. That would be the middle track. If it were to take a southern track, in which is probably the outlier at the moment, we really don't think it's going to take a southern track. But if it were to take a real southern track and dive down into the central Gulf of Mexico and then go across central Florida, it may not put enough precipitation up into Alabama and Georgia to produce much of any kind of frozen precipitation. There would likely be rain across South Alabama and South Georgia, and we may not have anything across East Alabama, West Georgia, or North Georgia. I think that of the three possibilities is the least. I think the two good possibilities are the northern track and the middle track. And right now, the trend appears to be somewhere between that northern track and that middle track. Right now, most people who are brave enough to start talking about winter weather types in specific locations are calling for snow down to or maybe just south of the I-20 corridor. And then from that point north, we're talking about maybe some accumulating snow as we get into the day on Friday. I'm not ready to start getting that specific just yet. I'm going to show you what the models are saying at the moment. Understand they're going to change. We're going to be on this roller coaster now tonight, tomorrow, probably Wednesday, and it's likely going to be Thursday before we really start to feel confident about the forecast, I believe. And, hey, look, that's just the way it is in the South when we're talking snow, because it really takes just this side of a miracle to get snow in the Southeast. Just not supposed to snow here. So I wouldn't take anything etched in stone until at least we get to Thursday. And even then, there's going to be surprises. Some people are going to be happy with what they receive, and then others are going to be very disappointed. That always happens when we have a snow event across the Southeast. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But for the moment, this is what the National Weather Service is giving us out of Birmingham, and you can see there that they're showing limited impact area, maybe some slick spots, mostly limited to bridges and overpasses. Basically from Anniston to Birmingham and north of Tuscaloosa south, down to maybe Clanton, Alexander City, and Roanoke. And then in Georgia, that would extend over to the Heard County, Troup County line, and maybe up to around Noonan. Then from that, Rome to Anniston to Birmingham to just north of Tuscaloosa line north, we're talking about elevated impact area where difficult travel conditions could take place. So that's going to be the northern quarter of the state of Alabama, and that extends over into Georgia as well, especially northwest Georgia. If the low pressure, as it comes across, whether it takes the northern route or the middle route, as it comes across Georgia, it's going to start curving back to the northeast. So that will start pulling some moisture off of the Atlantic and throwing it back across northeast Georgia. So, yeah, up here in northeast Georgia, the question mark is really bigger than it is anywhere else. We could get it handed to us, or we could be right on the fringes of this thing. It's just still too early to be specific about that. So a couple of things I want to do here. Let's go to the radar. And this is not current. Don't get excited, children. This is not a current radar shot. This is basically the Futurecast radar. This is what the computer models, and this is just one computer model, thinks is going to happen. And this is the GFS. Thinks will happen as we get into this. And this loop starts at 12 midnight Thursday night or 12 a.m. Friday morning. So I'm going to loop this, and then I'm going to zoom in and loop it again, and then I'm going to stop it. I'm going to draw some stuff on here and kind of do some I know some of you do better with coloring books than listening and comprehending, so I'm going to do some drawing here in just a few moments, Josh, so I can make sure you understand what we're saying. Of course, Josh got the 101 at lunch today, so he ought to be able to teach this class even as well as I can, or maybe even better. He likes to talk as much as I do also. All right, so here we go. This is looping through. We're now at about 10 o'clock on Friday morning. Now we're Friday afternoon. We're getting into Friday night. You see that we may change over to freezing rain up here in northeast Georgia. And then we're up into Saturday morning. It's all over with. Now, I know that went by real quick, so what I'm going to do is zoom in a little closer for you. And we're going to let that loop through again, zoomed in a little tighter. And let's move this over so you can see both states. Let's see here. Let's get this back to the beginning. And here we go again. And you'll see right there along the I-20 corridor is where basically the line will be. North Georgia, from Atlanta north, stays snow for several hours, and then we turn over to maybe freezing rain or sleet as we get toward the end of the event. So let's stop that, and let me pull it back to the beginning, and I'm going to step through it frame by frame and talk about what's going on. So, again, this is at midnight Thursday night, and you can see rain is already up into central Alabama, from Montgomery back over to about Auburn, and then up to the Birmingham area and back to the west and southwest. Snow across north Mississippi back into southern Arkansas. Then as we move ahead here to about 3 a.m. Friday morning, if this particular model verifies and is correct, that's a huge if right now, but if this were to verify, this is showing maybe some sleet or freezing rain right over maybe central and northern Clay and northwestern Randolph. I'll tell you what, let's do. Let's go in and get the counties on here. There we go. So you can see that a little bit better. So northwest Randolph, north and central Clay, maybe up to around Talladega and right along I-20 there at the Talladega Superspeedway. Maybe a little freezing rain starting at about 3 a.m. on Friday morning. North of the I-20 corridor, it's all snow. North of the I-22 corridor, going toward Tupelo, it is all snow. Over in Georgia, maybe some snow in Coweta, portions of eastern Carroll County. And then, this is an anomaly here, I think, but just north of Americus. The radar is trying to give us a little snow there at 3 a.m. on Friday morning. So we'll step through this again. That was at about 3 a.m. Now here's 5 a.m. Friday morning. Again, we see freezing rain or sleet across most of East Alabama from I-20 down to southern Clay, southern Randolph, back over into Hurd and Carroll. So what are you looking at there? About 2 hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours, if this model is correct, from I-20 down to southern Randolph and southern Clay, of frozen precipitation, most likely a mixture of all of the above, freezing rain, sleet, and snow, if I had to guess. Now, we're looking at snow over in western Atlanta at this time, maybe some freezing rain just to the south down around McDonough, and maybe even some sleet and freezing rain making it into Macon about 5 a.m. on your Friday morning. This is going to make for an absolute worse than normal Friday morning commute in Atlanta. I mean, on a normal dry day, it's about as bad as you can get, and you throw this stuff in on top of it, it may be even a whole lot worse. So, all right, so that's at 5 o'clock on Friday morning. Now let's move forward again, and let's go out to about, let's go to, and back up. Let's go to about 8:30. All right, there's 8 o'clock on Friday morning. You see the transition beginning in Talladega, Clay, and Randolph to all rain. And that, I believe this model's going to be pretty close. Because this is what the upper level profiles are showing. This is what a lot of the models are showing, that as the sun comes up, we're going to be so close to 32 degrees across East Alabama at this point, because we got that moisture falling through the atmosphere. As the sun comes up, we're going to rise just a degree or two, and we're going to start to see that transition from frozen precipitation over to all liquid. And so this particular one is saying that's going to really start to get underway around 8 o'clock on Friday morning. We still have snow over here in Heard County. We even have snow, snow in Meriwether County, up in Coweta. If this verifies, Noonan's going to be real happy. We still have snow occurring up in Carroll County, all the way up into Paulding. All of North Georgia's in snow at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern on your Friday morning. So let's move forward now. That's at 8 o'clock. And then by the time we get to about 10:45 on Friday morning, we're all liquid across East Alabama. We still have snow occurring in northern Cleburne County, maybe back over toward Jacksonville. Gadsden still got snow. We've got snow up in Coleman and Huntsville, Fort Payne, up around Mentone. Then we have, been battling the crud now since a week before Christmas. But I'm doing better. I just still have this cough going on. Then you see snow all across North Georgia. Pretty good snow is taking place up here in White County. This is at about 11 a.m. on your Friday morning. Still a mess in Atlanta by that time. And again, it's basically right along the I-20 corridor and north for, several hours, starting before sunrise Friday morning and continuing on through at least mid-morning on Friday. And up in extreme North Georgia, much further than that. So we take you out to about 1:45 on Friday afternoon, all liquid continuing across East Alabama. Most of the snow is completely gone in the state of Alabama by 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. We could have a little bit hanging on up here, up on top of Valley Head, up on Mentone, up there on top of the mountain. But for the most part, we're all rain now in Alabama by 2 o'clock Friday afternoon, Central, 3 o'clock Eastern. But you see what's happening up here in White County. We are still snow, with the exception of extreme southern White County, where things start to change over from snow to maybe sleet. Freezing rain occurring from Gainesville south all the way back down to Gwinnett County, right down 985. So a big mess potentially down here in Atlanta for the Friday afternoon commute back home. I think Atlanta has the potential of just having a horrible day travel-wise on your Friday. So that's about 2 o'clock Friday afternoon. We'll go ahead and move forward. Here we go at about 4 o'clock Friday afternoon. We're getting into a freezing rain and sleet mixture here in White County, back over toward Dahlonega, down into Gainesville, Banks County, Habersham County. All the I-20 counties at this point are in that heavy sleet and freezing rain setup. Nothing across Alabama but rain at this point. Then we will move on out to about 6 p.m. Friday afternoon, and you see freezing rain, mixture of freezing rain, rain, and sleet continuing across northeast Georgia, all the way down into Gainesville, all the way back to Athens, all the way down to the I-20 corridor, almost to Augusta, and then back up across upstate South Carolina. A lot of freezing rain and sleet from Columbia. Snow hanging on up there in Greenville. So Greenville, I think, probably will stand the chance of seeing 4, 5, 6 inches of snow before this is all over with, if this model verifies. It's a big if, folks. Don't lose sight of that. And then as we head toward about 7:30, 8 o'clock on your Friday evening, not only are we still all rain across East Alabama, but the rain is about to come to an end. And we're still in that freezing rain sleet set up across White County at that point. So we could literally easily be looking at a 12-hour event up here in northeast Georgia. So you snow lovers in East Alabama, if you want to increase your chances of seeing some snow, you might want to consider making reservations in Helen, Georgia. You got time to do that. If you do come up here and come hang out with us in northeast Georgia on Friday night and into the weekend, hey, you can make a weekend out of it. Send me a text message and let me know. I need to know you're up here if you're coming. And thank you. You're welcome, Helen. I'll take my percentage when we see how many folks show up. That was unpaid advertisement right there. But you see some snow breaking out again up in northeast Alabama, up around Chattanooga. That's because of the elevation up there. So there's still enough moisture left to start getting some more snow up around Chattanooga as the sun sets on Friday. And then look at that, 10 o'clock on Friday night, we still have some precipitation showing up across southern White County. Then as we head toward midnight, parts of northeast Georgia still with some of that freezing rain and sleet taking place. And then finally, by about 1:13 a.m. Central, 2:13 a.m., this would be on Saturday morning, we see the precipitation end across north Georgia, with some precipitation continuing right along the South Carolina line. Of course, nothing across East Alabama and West Georgia. Then we could have some wraparound snows as we get into the day on Saturday, I think more so up here in northeast Georgia. Then it's all gone. So that's kind of a frame-by-frame walkthrough of what we think is going to happen if this one particular model verifies. Now, let me zoom back out and show you the big picture here. And I'm gonna do some doodling on the screen here. And I don't want nobody making fun of my drawing. But I'm gonna try to show you the three different scenarios that we're looking at. All right, so if I can change colors here. The low pressure is going to form somewhere in this general vicinity. So that's your low pressure center. Then the three different possibilities would be, and this is approximate, this certainly isn't exact. So that would be the northern track. We'll call that track 1. The middle track would be something like so, and we'll call that track 2. And then the southernmost track would be out into the Gulf of Mexico and then across central Florida and then up to the north. So of these three tracks, right now, track 1 is the one that most people are buying into, and that's basically what we're looking at from what I've just shown you. And basically that snow line would be something like that. So along that line and north is where the bulk of the snow would fall. Now, we certainly will see some stuff south of that line, but meaningful accumulation would be north of that line. That's if track number 1 verifies. All right. Let's see if I can do this. Oh, I can. Ooh, that was nice. I thought I was going to have to erase all of them. All right, so let me go back here. So that was track number 1. Track number 2. If track number 2 verifies, we could be looking at the snow line being way down here. and everything north of this red line would be snow. I tell you what, let's do something a little different here. Let's change colors. And let me draw that snow line again. Oop. All right, it's messing with me now. Let me try it that way. All right, here we go. So if track number 2, or the middle track, verifies, then the snow line may get pulled much further to the south. So now we could be looking at some meaningful accumulations across East Alabama and West Georgia. So hear me and hear me loud, snow lovers of East Alabama and West Georgia. This is the track you want to be pulling for. As you're watching the weather guys on TV, and as you're watching my broadcast throughout the rest of the week, that middle track right there is what you want to be pulling for if you want to get a decent snow right there across East Alabama and West Georgia. Now, if the southern track verifies, we'll draw this in black. If the southern track were to verify, get back over there. Oh, come on. All right, this will be the southern track. I'm putting the dashes on it. Then, as crazy as this may sound, the snow may be down here in South Alabama and North Alabama, North Georgia, may get very little precipitation. It would be all snow. Anything that fell maybe north of something like so. Anything north of that black line would certainly be snow, and maybe some freezing rain and sleet down here in South Alabama. But the problem is all the moisture would be down here in the Gulf of Mexico. We would only be getting the northern fringes of the low-pressure system across East Alabama and North Georgia, so the accumulation amounts would not be nearly as significant. So what we need is for this low-pressure system, really what we need would be a track somewhere right in here, in between the northern track and the middle track. That would open the door for a pretty significant snow event across East Alabama and West Georgia. I hope that's clear. I hope everybody understands that. And I'm about to go to the chat room and read your comments. And I haven't peeked. I promise I haven't. But before I do that, I can almost guarantee you. We had class today at work on reading and comprehension. Josh, I guarantee you I've already answered every possible question you could have thrown at me that I can answer. I've already answered it. But I guarantee you somebody's going to be asking the question, well, how much is it going to snow over here on East Rock Road? Or what about this town? What about this community? What about this? I've already covered it for all of Alabama and Georgia. But, hey, look, it's all funny games until it isn't. And I will be more than happy to answer your question. So I'm going to go back and put the graphic back up there. And I'm going to go over here and take a look at the chat room. And typically when I do this, I start at the bottom, the latest comment, and work my way back up. And I'm not normally able to get all the way back to the beginning because there's so many questions and comments there. Deborah Gilmore is watching us in Wedowee. If I look like I'm looking off camera, it's my chat monitor is to the left, so that's why it kind of looks that way. Emily Bailey is late to the party. I'll recap here in just a few minutes, Emily. Paige says, thanks from Roanoke. Thank you, Paige. Salty got go track number 2. Salty wants track number 2. If you're a snow lover and you're in East Alabama or West Georgia, that's the one you want. You want number 2 or a blend of 1 and 2. Bonnie's pulling for track number 2. Dance Beat is voting for snow track. Okay. Angela Martin says that she's good with track number 2. Jennifer is hollering at Brianna. And there is The Rock. And Tammy is voting for pattern number 2. Neil Fettner in the house. Good evening to you, sir. For those of y'all who don't know me or don't know my history, way back yonder, way back yonder in the day, I had a television show. It was on a low-power station out of LaGrange. It was called Good Morning Randolph County. And old brother Neil Fettner was one of my regular co-hosts on that show, along with many other colorful characters from the Randolph County area. Good to see you in here, Neil. I talked to Neil not too long ago. We talked on the phone. Let's see. There's Linda. Thank you, Linda. Randy. Okay, he's commenting to someone else. Smith Station in the house. Hey, Nathaniel. Chris and Rosie watching from Demarest, Georgia. Neighbors. I'm in White County. I'm formerly from East Alabama and West Georgia, but have been, gosh, y'all, I got to thinking about this today. Producer Tracy and I moved up here right at 15 years ago. I've been out of Randolph County for 15 years. That's just bizarre. Doesn't seem like it's been that long. Let's see here. Hill Marlene is watching us from Wadowee. Mary Wilkins from Frog Eye, Alabama says, please send snow. Karen Nord is watching. Scott says this is his first winter living in a camper. Yeah. Hope you got good heat. All right. There's Maria. Yay, snow for Noonan. I did not say snow for Noonan. Understand and remember, I said if that one model I was showing you verifies, then you may see snow in Noonan. Look, here's the deal. Confidence is through the roof that we're going to get a low pressure to form in the Gulf of Mexico. Folks, it ain't even formed yet. So there's no way to know, number one, 100% positive we're going to get a low pressure, though I think odds of that are pretty high. But until it forms, we don't know exactly which way it's going. We can look at the weather patterns that's out there right now and get a pretty good idea of the direction it's going to move, but nobody's positive on which direction it's going to move, and that is going to that's going to make a difference, and the temperature is going to be critical. I'm talking 1 to 2 to 3 degrees. It's going to make all the difference in the world with this event. So what I'm saying to you is you could possibly see some snow in Noonan. I did not say it was going to snow in Noonan. And I know you didn't mean it that way, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Because I'm going to tell you something. You're talking about taking a whooping. Every time we have a chance of snow, and it doesn't happen, everybody gets all upset about it. And some folks just get downright nasty. I just want to make sure everybody understands I'm a messenger. I take the information the National Weather Service puts out there, and I present it to you in a format that the big cities have that rural parts of Alabama and Georgia don't have, in wall-to-wall form coverage during severe and winter weather events. And I try to put it in layman's terms so everybody can understand what we're talking about. That's what we do here at Dr. Don's Weather. I don't make the forecast. I don't sit down with my pencil sharpener and start scratching up all these formulas and drawing on a chalkboard and putting aluminum foil antennas on my head. That's not what I do. I simply take the information the Weather Service puts out there, and then I throw a little bit of experience in there because, look, folks, I've been doing this a long, long time, and this is not the first time we've seen a setup like this, and in some of those cases, it verified and everybody was happy. In some of those cases, it was a total bust and everybody was a little ticked off. So always understand there is a bust factor anytime there is a significant weather event projected. Even severe weather is the same thing. There's always a bust factor. I think wintertime setups, the bust factor is higher, and this will be no exception. There's a equal chance that some of you are not going to be happy. Then some of you are going to be surprised and happy. Just the way it works. Still looking at comments in the chat room. There's a lot of you in there with a lot of comments, so I'm trying to sift through them. Celia says, snow like it's 1993. I remember 93. I was working for WELR, Eagle 102 in Roanoke in 1993, had just moved to Roanoke from Daleville, Alabama. And I was sick when that snow event took place. And I remember watching James Spann, and Spann's talking about, we're talking a foot of snow in East Alabama. And when he was saying all this, it was like 70 degrees. This was the day before. And I'm going, this dude with his rolled up white shirt, sleeves rolled up, and wearing that tie has done lost his mind. And then I went to bed early that night because, like I said, I'd been sick. And about 2 or 3 o'clock that morning, Mr. Jim Weiss, who owned the radio station at that time, called me. This was before cell phones. He called on the regular telephone. And he said, Don, have you looked outside lately? I said, no, sir, Mr. Weiss, I have not. So the window was right above the bed. So I stood up and pulled the curtain back. And y'all, it looked like the abominable snowman had been murdered outside my front door. I mean, it was unbelievable on how deep the snow was, and it was snowing so hard you couldn't even see the street light out at the end of the yard. So, yeah, 93 was a big one. Probably will never, ever see that again. That was a low-pressure system that phased with a second low-pressure system, and it just blew up right across the southeastern United States. Judy is asking for some snow in Woodland. Let's see. Yeah, there were flurries out there this afternoon. Somebody said somebody else said there were snow in Wedowee, I think she said today. There were snow flurries out there. Actually, there were some snow showers. I don't know if y'all saw the video from Birmingham, but golly, about 1 o'clock this afternoon, downtown Birmingham looked like they were getting a pretty good snow. I mean, it was coming down pretty good. And there were multiple reports of flurries and showers all across Alabama and Georgia this afternoon in the wake of that storm system that moved through here this morning. And we told you this morning on the primetime forecast that was going to be a good possibility, and it did. It did develop. No measurable snow anywhere, though. Jack's asking for no snow. He said, them folks down in Phoenix City and Columbus can't drive as it is. They don't need any snow. I really don't, based on this data that we have right now, again, it could change, and it probably will one way or another. But based on what we have right this moment, I think Columbus, Phoenix City is going to be south and in the cold rain sector of this storm. We'll see. There's going to be, and there always is, a 10 to 20, maybe 30-mile wide path there on the northern fringes of the precipitation shield that could get 2 to 4 inches of snow. Everybody won't get that much. And I think, based on what we know at the moment, that heavier snow axis is going to be north of the I-20 corridor. Though I think south of I-20, you're going to see a mixture, especially in the pre-dawn hours Friday morning into maybe 7, 8 a.m. Then you're going to change over to all rain if this current information ends up being correct. I know y'all get tired of hearing me say that, but I really need to hammer that home because somebody's going to leave this tonight and say, that Dr. Don guy said it was going to snow 12 inches over here at my house on Friday at 1 a.m. That's not what I'm saying. Elizabeth, I think LaGrange will probably be LaGrange is in West Georgia, so East Alabama, West Georgia. You're going to see some stuff. At the moment, it appears that your best chances of seeing all snow would be in the pre-dawn hours Friday morning. It probably will be a mixture, but it may be more snow than anything else for a period there. Then as the sun comes up Friday morning, you're going to warm up above 32, and I think you go back to all rain. Jessica's asking me to keep it all above Tallapoosa County. If I had that power. If only I had that power. A bigger snowstorm next week. I haven't seen that. I know a lot of folks got confused over what we dealt with last night and into this morning with what's coming this coming Friday. Folks were seeing all the maps and stuff of all the heavy, heavy snow from Kansas all the way to the New England states yesterday and thought that was what was coming this coming Friday. So the only two snowstorm setups I'm aware of at the moment, and I've looked beyond Friday and I didn't see anything. I did see some suggestion of maybe some more frozen precipitation on about the 19th or 20th. But what I looked at today was more of a Tennessee Valley, extreme North Georgia, southern Tennessee event. But folks just got confused because we got so much going on, I think. Roof selling was cold today. I bet it was, Josh. Hey, Troy. Possibility of ice Friday morning in Randolph County. Well, look, everything is on the table right now. And that is everything from absolutely nothing at all to a mixture of freezing rain, sleet, rain, and snow, to a mixture of freezing rain and sleet, to a mixture of sleet and snow, to all snow. Everything is still on the table. I think the chances of seeing accumulating ice in Randolph County, the low's going to have to be more, maybe just a little bit south, a little bit further south than that northern track I showed a few moments ago, but not down to the middle track. If we get down to that middle track, you're going to be sitting pretty for a significant snow event. But if it lands somewhere between track 1 and 2, then that would increase the ice threat for East Alabama and West Georgia. So I'm not going to say that it won't happen. I'm not going to say it's going to happen. I think ice is on the table. It is a possibility for Randolph County, and that holds true for all of East Alabama and West Georgia. Airport in Atlanta. If this particular model verifies, let me go back to it. I know some of you may just be joining. Hey, understand, too, when you join and we're like halfway in or you missed something, as soon as I finish this live, give it 4 or 5 minutes, and then you can go back and watch it from the beginning. That's the cool part about doing lives on Facebook and YouTube. All right, so this is basically a Futurecast radar. You've seen them, where the model just gives you the reflectivity instead of giving you bunches of numbers and symbols. It gives you, it paints the picture, so to speak, of what we think is going to happen out there. And this starts at midnight on Thursday night. Let me just kind of walk you through this. So there we are at midnight. You see nothing but rain across West Alabama, over toward Birmingham, and then maybe up I-85 to Notasulga, and then back down 65 to about Andalusia, and then into Mobile. Nothing but rain. Maybe a few light snow showers in extreme northwest Alabama at midnight on Sunday night. Let's jump ahead to 3 a.m. Now we start to see some snow falling in North Alabama along and north of I-20 from Atlanta back over to Birmingham, then up I-22 from Birmingham into Mississippi. All snow from that point north. From that point south, it's primarily rain, a cold rain, but we may be looking at some mixture of freezing rain and or sleet beginning to develop in East Alabama at 3 a.m. Friday morning. I'm going to take you down to county level so you can kind of see where this is at, and there we go. So this would suggest, if this is correct, northern Clay, northwest Randolph, southwestern Cleburne, extreme southern Calhoun, and back into Talladega County, back up to about Talladega, the Supermotor Speedway, could be looking at some freezing rain or sleet at 3 a.m. on Friday morning. We'll jump ahead to about 5:45 Friday morning. A couple of things happening here. That transition between all snow and rain is still lined up right there along I-20 from Atlanta to Birmingham, and then up I-22 from Birmingham back up into Mississippi. From those two major interstates north, it is all snow. But you'll see that area has expanded across East Alabama, and I wouldn't get caught up in those two different colors. One is freezing rain, the other is sleet. What this is telling us is that we're likely looking at a mixture along and south of I-20, and maybe as far south as the I-85 corridor. We don't know yet. But it is telling us all snow all the way back into Atlanta, so that question about the airport, maybe at around 7 a.m. on Friday morning, we got snow in downtown Atlanta. That certainly would cause a problem. Atlanta's a problem on a sunny day. You throw a little snow in there, and it's really bad. So then we jump ahead to about 9 or 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern on Friday morning. And we're beginning to see the snow dive a little bit further south across East Alabama and West Georgia. And so we may be looking at, a mixture, or it could briefly change over to all snow in places like Carroll County, Heard County, even down into eastern Troup County, back over into Meriwether and Coweta, and even eastern Randolph could be looking at a little snow there on Friday morning. But if we do transition to all snow, it probably isn't going to last very long because, look, by 11:30, that snow line retreats back to the north, right along the I-20 corridor, and it pulls northeast off of the I-22 corridor back up to about Gadsden. So now, if this verifies, By about 11:30 on Friday morning, it's snowing in Atlanta still, back up to Gadsden and then Huntsville and north. South of that, where the green is, it's all rain. So it would mean that, by 10:30, 11 o'clock on Friday morning, the snow, frozen precipitation, everything is done in Clay County, Randolph County, Heard, probably most of Carroll and Troup County as well, even down into Chambers and Tallapoosa and Lee. Nothing but rain by about 11:30 Friday morning. Still a wintry wonderland taking place, though, along the I-20 corridor and north. Up here in northeast Georgia, we got snow for most of the day on Friday up here in White County, if this model is correct. Then we'll jump ahead to about 2:30. These are Central times, 2:30 Central Friday afternoon, 3:30 Eastern. Nothing frozen at all across East Alabama. Even up in North Alabama, we've gone back over to all rain, maybe with the exception of Mentone Mountain up there, which is a much higher elevation. Everybody else is all rain. But over here in Georgia, we got a wintry mess. We got some snow, we got freezing rain, and we got sleet from Atlanta right up I-85, 985, places like Gainesville, Dahlonega, Helen, Cleveland, over toward Clarksville and Habersham County, down to Banks County, and all the way down there to the I-85 corridor, and really all the way down to the I-20 corridor. We've got some type of frozen precipitation taking place up until about 2:30. 3:30 on Friday afternoon, but it continues even further. We've got cold air hanging on up here in northeast Georgia, we think, on Friday afternoon, kind of a wedge effect, where you get that cold air damming up against the south side of the Appalachian Mountains, kind of keeps things a little cooler here. May actually be cooler in Helen, Georgia, than it will be in Blairsville or Blue Ridge by about 6:15 Friday afternoon. That's why this model is still holding on to frozen precipitation in northeast Georgia. I mean, look at that. Even out there at 9 o'clock on Friday night, we've still got signals of frozen precipitation across East Alabama. Even at midnight Friday night, I said Alabama, I meant Georgia. Even at midnight on Friday night, as we go into early Saturday morning, the model still thinks we may have some frozen precipitation falling up here in northeast Georgia. Nothing there across East Alabama and West Georgia. And then finally, by about 3 or 4 a.m. Saturday morning, we start to see the meaningful moisture move on up into South Carolina and things start to calm down. In Georgia, though, we could see some wraparound moisture during the day on Saturday, so snow flurries could continue even into the day on Saturday. So that's kind of a frame-by-frame walk through what this one particular model thinks is going to happen with this storm on Friday. Now, I got to tell you, there are literally hundreds of models that meteorologists have access to. So right now, there's good agreement we're going to have a low-pressure system. There's not good agreement on exactly how much and of what type and exactly where it's going to fall. And we really won't start getting that clarification until we get to Wednesday, and it may even be Thursday before confidence really comes up. Right now, you look at trends. You look at the overall trend, and I'll tell you this, and I said I wasn't going to say this, but I will. This one particular model has trended a shade bit south with that snow line over the last 24 to 48 hours. I think it was kind of back and forth there for a minute, but we've seen a couple of runs now where that snow line is dropping a little bit further south with each run. So that's a trend that we'll watch. And if that continues, then it may make sense to move that blue that you see there up around Gadsden and Anniston back over toward Hamilton. That blue shaded area may get pulled a little bit further south, maybe down to the I-20 corridor, maybe even south of the I-20 corridor, if that trend continues. So we're watching that. Excuse me. What is the difference between freezing rain and sleet? All right. So freezing rain, let's talk about that first. Freezing rain is ice pellets. A lot of times it's snow that falls out of the cloud frozen, and then it falls through a warm layer of airs. It's the meteorologist described that as a warm nose, and there will be a warm nose in play with this event. So that snow falls into that warm layer of air, and it melts, and so it super cools. And so when it hits the ground, the surface is at or just below 32 degrees. The freezing rain hits the ground liquid and then freezes on contact. That is freezing rain. That is bad. Of all these possibilities, what you do not want is freezing rain. A tenth of an inch will cause some problems. It wouldn't be detrimental. You get up there around a quarter of an inch of freezing rain or more, we're talking big problems because that weights down the power lines and the trees. You throw a little wind in there on top of it, and you start losing trees and power lines, and the roads are just coated with ice, and you can't even walk on it, much less drive. So freezing rain, of all the possibilities, is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And then sleet is pretty much the same scenario. It's a snowflake that falls into that warm layer of air, but then there is a shallow layer of cold air below the warm air, so that snowflake melts and then refreezes into an ice pellet, which we call sleet. Now, there's another terminology out there, and it's somewhere between a snowflake and sleet. It's called grapple, which is basically just a little bitty piece of ice. And that's a possibility, too, during all of this. So sleet hits the ground as an ice pellet. Freezing rain hits the ground as liquid rain and freezes on contact. Hope maybe that answered your question. Bring it to Dawsonville. Stephen, I don't think you're going to have much of a problem with that. Dawsonville's sitting pretty for some snow. Oh, Dana Robertson. Good to see you there, Miss Dana. Hey, y'all jump in the RV and come on up here to Unicor State Park and spend the weekend with us. You'll probably get to see some snow. Elizabeth Howard. What's up? Been to the Fox Theater lately? Tim's asking the question, have I seen a model that shows exactly where the low-pressure system will track? No. Every model out there has its own idea of where the low-pressure system will track. There is not a model that's 100% positive or accurate. But every single model that is giving us an idea of who, what, where, when, and how does show where that one particular model thinks the low pressure is going to track. And basically what I showed you a few moments ago, and if you missed it, go back and watch it from the beginning when we get finished. And what I showed you a few moments ago were basically those three different options. It takes that northern track across South Alabama and South Georgia. Then that lays the snow down way up in North Georgia, North Alabama, and you stay mostly rain from I-20 south. If it takes the middle track, which would be right offshore and across the northern Gulf and maybe across Florida just south of Jacksonville, that brings the snow line further south and could potentially bring it down to the I-85 corridor, maybe just north of that, and that would give you a meaningful snow across East Alabama and West Georgia. And then that third option would be well off into the central Gulf and then across central Florida, and that may not give us much precipitation at all, and this whole thing could be a bust. I think that's the outlier right now. I think we're probably somewhere between track 1 and 2, the northern track and the middle track. For folks in North Alabama, North Georgia, and we're talking Gainesville north in Georgia. We're talking Cullman north in Alabama. Either scenario, one or two, is going to give us an opportunity for a decent snow across the northern half of Alabama and Georgia. If it takes that more northern track, then there could be more of a sleet, freezing rain possibility across the northern half of Georgia and Alabama versus snow. And the all snow would likely be right along the Alabama-Tennessee state line, the Georgia-Tennessee, and North Carolina state line. But either of those scenarios probably is going to provide some travel issues across North Alabama and North Georgia. Heflin, Alabama in the hood. Hey, Martin. Let's see what we got here time-wise. We're at 8:01. We've been going about an hour. I'm going to go about 10 more minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up. We're going to do this every night this week, and I'll give you the latest information each time. Columbus, Georgia. Lisa's asking the question, how do I see the Columbus, Georgia area? Again, it's going to depend on exactly how this thing tracks, how the low-pressure system tracks. If it takes that northern track, I think it's all rain in Columbus, Phoenix City, back over towards Smith Station, even up into Harris County. If it takes that track number 2 or the middle track, I think you could see a mixture in Columbus, Phoenix City. If it were to take a track a little bit further south, out in, maybe 150 miles out in the Gulf, it could pull that snow line all the way down to Columbus, Phoenix City. That, I don't think, is a good option at the moment. So if you're asking me for my opinion, knowing what we know right this moment, I think Columbus, Phoenix City stays all rain. Lisa's watching us in Casita. There's one more look at the Futurecast radar. Kind of let it loop through for you a time or two and show you what this one model thinks is going to happen beginning after midnight Thursday night and continuing throughout most of the day on Friday, especially up here in northeast Georgia, maybe even into most of the night on Friday. And I'll zoom in a little closer and bring the counties in focus and let it loop again. You'll see maybe some mixture there right before sunrise across East Alabama, then all snow north of I-20, and that will retreat during the day. But we stay mostly frozen up here in northeast Georgia, according to this one particular model. Yeah, Neil, I've looked at the European. That's all I'm going to say about that. Same thing for Center Alabama. You're probably looking at a mixture early, maybe a change over to all snow. But then as the morning wears along, you're going to switch back over to all rain. Hey, Beckett and Potash Ridge. Snow Mojo. Dance Beat wants me to throw some Snow Mojo so we can see some snow in Roanoke, Alabama. Let me see what I can do about that, Dance Beat. Yeah, folks, again, what I'm telling you tonight is based off of this one model run, which is one of the more trusted models. It generally performs fairly well, and we're not really talking specifics tonight. It's still too early to talk specifics. I know what this is showing, and I could tell you how much snow we're talking about if this one verified depth-wise. But this is going to change. This is not going to be our end solution. I can guarantee you that. That's the only thing that is certain right now. This will not be our final solution. This will change. It'll change before we do this again tomorrow night. So there's no point in getting into specifics and start trying to figure out exactly who's going to get snow and who's not going to get snow. If you're anywhere north of I-85, you're in that area where, this whole thing could change drastically, either for the good or the bad, depending on how you look at it, whether you love snow or hate snow. Yvonne is a Snowmageddon survivor. Well, welcome to the club. Debbie's watching us in LaGrange. Folks, before we get out of here, if you get an opportunity, if you'd like to support us, we ask that you do that. There are links at the top of the video. Multiple different ways you can support us here at Dr. Don's Weather. For those of you who are just discovering us, we've been doing this now for going on 7 years for East Alabama and West Georgia. We provide weather for the rural counties of East Alabama and West Georgia, the same type of coverage that Birmingham and Atlanta gets with their local television meteorologist. I am not a meteorologist, but I've been doing this a long time. By trade, I am an emergency manager, and my specialty is weather. And we've been doing this now for about 7 years, but there are costs involved in all of this. Lots of equipment, subscriptions, internet cost. Oh, and speaking of internet, might I share with my family? You would not believe. I could sit here for the rest of this night and explain to you what we have gone through up here in the sticks of northeast Georgia on the side of Walker Mountain to get internet so that we can do these broadcasts. I mean, we have strung stuff together. Producer Tracy, I know she's shaking her head down there right now. What we have gone through to get internet up here has been absolutely unbelievable, at least enough internet to stream with. And we're talking, it's totally two different worlds here. Watching television is one thing, but upload is hugely important when you're doing streaming stuff, such as what we're doing tonight. And we have been, where and back, trying to get consistent internet to be able to do this. Never thought in a million years. I mean, I would have bet the farm that we would never, ever, ever, ever have fiber capabilities up here on this mountain. Well, guess what? About a week before Christmas, I come home from work one afternoon, and there is a HEMC, which is our electric co-op up here, truck hammering fiber cable up on the telephone poles up here. So we're not hooked up yet, but they're building out this entire area, and hopefully within the next month or two, we will be streaming on fiber internet, and that's going to change our world. There are a lot of things we're going to be able to do that we haven't been able to do up until this point because we just didn't have the bandwidth. So we're awfully excited about that. There's going to be that cost involved. It's not cheap. So if you can support us, we ask that you do that. And again, you can pick your pleasure. There are every option in the world listed at the top of the video. Over on YouTube there at the bottom of the video. Or just send me a message on Messenger if you'd like to do it that way, and I can tell you how you can go about supporting us. And if you own a business especially, we have several openings right now. We'd love to have you as a partner. Just send me a message on Messenger, and I'll tell you all about it. It's real easy to get signed up, and I can have you running before we do our next weather forecast, which would be our primetime forecast at around 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, right here on Dr. Don's Weather. So we're going to wrap things up now, and again, we'll leave you with this. It does look, and confidence is pretty high, that we will have a winter storm event across the southeast. Specifics are not available yet. We've been looking at one particular model. You see it right there at about 9 o'clock on Friday morning. Snow all across North Georgia and across North Alabama down to about the I-20 corridor. But that's just one option. That's just one possibility. There are others out there that show snow much further south. There are other models out there that show no snow at all for anybody. And there are models out there that show, thank you, Neil, an explosion with massive amounts of snow across Alabama and Georgia. And I'm not going to go with the outliers. I'm going to kind of take the middle of the road here because we've been taunted with these major blizzard situations before and ended up with nothing much more than, a few pieces of ice. So we're going to play it safe on this. But I think by tomorrow morning, we do the primetime forecast, we'll have more information. And then by tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central, when we do our next Weather Talk Live, we'll have even more information. So hope that you make your plans to join us again in the morning and again tomorrow afternoon as we continue to keep you updated here on Dr. Don's Weather. Hope that you have a fantastic rest of your Monday night. And don't forget, folks, it is dangerously cold out there. You got wind chill factors in the teens, perhaps upper single digits before the night's over with. And it's brutally cold. Be very careful if you have to be outside. Extended period of cold all the way through this week. Reinforcing cold comes in on Thursday. And then somebody somewhere across the southeastern United States is going to have to deal with some winter mischief by the time we get to Friday into Saturday. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your evening. I'll see you back in here first thing tomorrow morning. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise on Dr. Don's Weather. Good night, folks.